Hi, I'm Albie from Keller Williams, Las Vegas, and I'm here to give you a monthly housing update for the month of July. Yes, we know it's actually gone by really fast, but let's break down the numbers for you, and we'll talk about some other stuff as well. Finally, the interest rate did come down. They came down about a half a point in the last week, so been idling around that 6.85, 7.25. But we just closed today at 6.5, and that's just the average of every single lender that's out there. Some of them are going to be lower, some are going to be a little bit higher, but that's besides the point. Maybe I should do another video on that. But let's talk about a couple other things. So let's get deep into the numbers, and then after that, I'll give a quick explanation of the NAR lawsuit that is going on. All right. So let's talk about the median price of Las Vegas. The median price of Las Vegas is $487,000. All right, is that good, bad, high, low? What is it? So compared to last month, that's $7,000 higher. And I'm like, how can it be higher if the interest rate was high? Supply and demand. So there wasn't a lot of supply in the system here in Las Vegas. So people just kept on buying and it went up. So, and that wasn't a big change, but if you take a look at the numbers from last year, so the median price last year was $455. That's about a 6.5% increase, which is really good. I love that number because anything in that 5 to 9% is a great number. Anything past that, you're starting to get into territory where it may be unsustainable, but we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. So let's talk about the supply part. So supply has been slightly increasing. So everybody is starting to unlock what we call the unlock of their own mortgages, because there's a lot of people in that low 5s, 4s, 3.5s, and 2s. Now they can't move because they're locked into their interest rate because it's so good. Now they're starting to unload some of their stuff and say, hey, I'm going to move into something a little bit different. So that's becoming attainable now and less expensive. How less expensive? Theoretically, running the numbers that I just saw, $230 less in a week that you would pay on a mortgage that's $400,000. That's without any of the other stuff that's associated with it, your taxes and insurance, but that's just principal and interest, and that's just a rough estimate that's out there. So that's the kind of savings that you're looking at just by that half point based on $400,000. That's the numbers I just read, but let's talk about the different communities. Summerlin, of course, because Summerlin is where I live and do most of my work. But here's the really great thing is the median price just hit $800,000. That's a big number. That's a huge number. $800,000 for a house in Summerlin. That's incredible. That is a rather large number. How large of a number? Well, compared to last year, it is an 18% increase. So the median price last year was $650. And that sounds about right for Summerlin, $650 in that range. But apparently it is $800,000 now. And, you know, we sold 115 units, which is a little bit on the low end compared to last year. It was 141. We usually typically stay around that 150 mark, which encompasses all of Summerlin, including the Red Rock Country Club. So that is included inside of the Summerlin. But they don't pay the HOA dues, though. I'm just throwing it out there. They are inside of Summerlin, though. Trust me, I called the HOA just to verify. Summerlin told me yes. All right, and let's talk about my zip code. So my zip code's it's wishy-washy, I guess, if you really want to talk about numbers-wise. So we came in at $836,000 as the median price. Just a 7% increase versus last year. So it's a little steady growth, and it's just slightly above where that median growth for Las Vegas is. So that's kind of, hey, we're in the middle here, but I got more news for you. So 89135, which is next door to my zip code of 89138, 89135 is $840,000 as the median price. They finally eclipsed the 89138. Maybe 89138 had a bad month, and then 89135 had a great month. But it's really funny. It's like in 89138, you have those large houses in the Summit and the Ridges, and you would assume that number would be a lot higher. That's average versus median. Median is that number right in the middle because they do have houses in the low 5s and the 400s. So that's where it all comes about. But yeah, they eclipse us. I'm like, hey, it is what it is. We'll see next month. It's just me and 89135. I don't know. It's just me. So, all right. So let's talk about Henderson. All right. Henderson. I always talk about Henderson. So that median price came in at $538,000 as the median price. What does that compare to last month? Well, last month it was $537. So it was a $1,000 increase. That's not, yeah, it's maybe 4 or 5 houses that came with there, but nothing, that's flat to me. That really doesn't say anything. But if you take a look at it versus of last year, it actually gone up 0.5%. I don't know if my numbers are right. I checked them, but it was 535 last year, so I just barely went up. I don't know. Maybe it's flat. I don't know. It is what it is. But the really cool part is we'll talk about where the discounts are in North Las Vegas. I always call it the discount because the prices are lower, but they're starting to creep up. The median price was $435. Mike, that's pretty expensive. If you take a look at some of my older videos, they're like that. It was in the low 400s. Now it's starting to go into that middle 400s. But yeah, absolutely correct. Over last month, we're at $425. That's a $10,000 jump. That's incredible. So if you take a look at year over year, that is a 7.5% increase. So that's on a little bit higher than if you just bought in Las Vegas as a metro, taking it all in. So that's really good. Good for them to be able to move up. It's starting, it was one of the places where you can invest. I might get something bigger. Now that's starting to get smaller because the prices are starting to creep up there. If you take a look, as one more area I would like to call part of Vegas is the Southwest. So the Southwest, it was really hot on TikTok and Instagram as being, hey, this is the new rich spot where everybody lives, where the wealthy live. I don't see it. I just don't. I really don't see it. And the numbers don't lie either. So the numbers for the median price of the Southwest, if you made it this far, why don't you throw a number down there in the comments and let me know what you think it is. So the median price of the Southwest was $538,000. That's on par with Henderson, which is great. So that's a good number there. So and it has increased $8,000 over last month. So it's a nice little steady growth in there as well. But year over year, you're seeing that 14% increase. That's really good. And it's starting to become into that point where we're still really good until we get to that 18, 19, 20 mark. That's slightly unsustainable for that growth year over year. Over a couple of years, that ends up working out really well. So that's really, really good. So, but yeah, those are the numbers here. And if you made it this far, I'll tell you some of the NARs, so the part of the new rules that we're starting. We started early, but the new rules don't actually go until August 17th. But in Las Vegas, we're overachievers. We started quite early. So we started on the 1st. So today is the 6th, so we're 6 days in. Did you know, if you're working with a realtor, you need a buyer-broker agreement? So basically, with that buyer-broker agreement, it tells you, like, how much are you willing to pay your agent? Because the whole lawsuit was all about decoupling the commission. So before, the seller would pick up the tab on the listing agent, and also he had the ability to also pay for the buyer's agent. All that was always negotiable, so it just depends on what they were looking to do on that standpoint. So now they decoupled them, and they said the seller can still pay, but now that is gone from the MLS. So nobody knows until we call the listing agent. And then the listing agent could give us a verbal, but then we have to put it in an offer now. So that's a little bit different. I technically don't know who this helps. Transparency that's all about the lawsuit, but I don't even know if this is even going to make it because we're not really supposed to talk about this kind of stuff. But anyways, just from my standpoint, I really feel like it doesn't really help anybody because it really, really doesn't. Because it takes away some of that transparency. Even though that's what it was all about, the transparency. Anyways, thank you so much for following and listening to me. Hopefully this was informative and maybe you learned something. But thanks again, and we'll see you.